And with all of that dramatic music, we are here to talk with Vicki and Jean, and I'm going to bring in my co-host, Christine, and then we're going to bring in some more authors. So D. Scott here, live on Amazon, and we are talking to AlzAuthors and focusing on stories about, or books with stories about Alzheimer's and dementia. And we're going to talk about the SMILE program and how people can let their purchases provide benefit to the folks over at AlzAuthors. But Christine is co-hosting with me today. So let me just cycle over and say hello, Christine. Can you give a quick introduction to yourself, because you are the aging enthusiast?
I really am. These people are people that I've only met on screen, and everyone who's watching right now, you know, this is all on screen, but we are so live. This is my husband. These are two people who have spent years either giving care, loving someone who was living with an Alzheimer's diagnosis, and also years pouring onto paper and onto their computers what was happening inside and away, kind of the invisible time, and put it out there. And people have been so helped by knowing, yes, I'm going through that too. I didn't know about that. Oh, I'm so glad to hear someone else voice something that I didn't even know what to do to put words to it. So I'm grateful for these people. They have interconnected with hundreds of others. And some of these people are meeting each other on screen for the first time today. So thank you so much to my husband for making this possible.
All right. So we're going to have fun. We're going to go through in the carousel. There's 40 different books. There's a lot more. And at AlzAuthors website, they're curating a lot of books, and they're all available here on Amazon. And so we're really happy to be able to provide a spotlight and an opportunity to share a little bit about the stories, give some insights into the stories, into the books, and give you a chance to add AlzAuthors as your charity of choice for the SMILE program. And Marianne, we're going to come over to you here and let you give a little introduction, and then we'll go to Jean and Vicki.
Oh, unmute. Good.
Sorry.
There we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here today. We're so excited for the opportunity to be on this Amazon Live show. We are AlzAuthors, the global community of authors who have written about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience. Majority of our books, 90% or more, have been written by people who have been on a dementia journey, whether as a caregiver or as someone who is living with the disease themselves. So we're really excited to share what we have to offer with other people who might be concerned with these conditions.
That's wonderful. And let's bring Jean over. There we go. And we'll
Well,
get Jean
Jean,
unmuted as well.
Jean gets her. Yes, I just wanted to say these people are all authors as well in their own right. Go right ahead, Jean.
Thank you. In 2015, I published my memoir, Alzheimer's Daughter, and with great guilt, grief, and insecurity as to whether I should have published it or not. But I reached out to Marianne Shuko, who had written Blue Hydrangeas, a book that I had so enjoyed. And she read my book and said, can we join forces and elevate the other books in this genre, because people need to find these? And she said, who else have you read? And I said, Vicky Tapia. And that's how it began, with the three of us in 2015. And now we created AlzAuthors.com at that point, and we've grown slowly, every week posting a new book. And now we're at over 300 authors of books and blogs, mostly books, in our bookstore. All of these books written from personal experience with Alzheimer's and dementia. We've brought them together to benefit those who are currently on the journey.
Wonderful. And let's bring Vicky in. And Vicky, there's also a podcast, and people can find a podcast as well.
Marianne is our podcast expert, and for the people that have trouble finding time to sit down and read, listening to a podcast is sometimes the way to go. And we have amazing authors that she talks to every week. I've learned so much. What I've learned is how much I didn't know when I was a caregiver, and how much I wished I could have heard these podcasts when I was on my journey with my parents. We have grown and morphed, and starting out just promoting our own books, and then suddenly morphing into promoting all books of authors with personal journeys, to doing our podcast. We also have some YouTube videos, short messages of hope that people can, if they have 30 seconds to listen. And it's been an amazing journey.
Oh, that's wonderful. We just, so many people feel like they're the only ones that have gone through this. And it's nice to know that there's support and there's a great community. And I'll tell you, just in working with you guys, the short time to put together this particular author interview show, I am really impressed with the community and with the support that you guys have for each other. So one of the things that we want to talk about is to let people know how to take advantage of the Amazon Smile program, which Amazon makes donations to nonprofit organizations, and you can choose the nonprofit organization of your choice, like AlzAuthors. And so I'm going to play a little video, and when that video ends, we're going to have a whole bunch of people in this room. You can support your favorite charities by using the Amazon Smile program. Go to smile.amazon.com. Choose the button here on the upper left to select your favorite charity. Scroll down, put in the name of the charity, like AlzAuthors, and search. Once you've found the group, you can read about them. So here we have AlzAuthors, and it's a community of authors sharing Alzheimer's and dementia stories. Once you've found the charity, go ahead and click the Select button. And now your purchases will all go toward supporting your favorite charity using the Amazon Smile program. This is a great thing that Amazon does. It's not all of your purchases, but it is a percentage that Amazon donates. Well, welcome. We've got plenty of authors here. And so, let's see, Marianne, Vicky, Jean, who wants to do our introduction? For our next talk, who do we want to talk to first?
I'll go ahead and start. If there are available. I know there was issues going on, but yeah, there she is, the black screen anyway. Our only UK interviewee today is Deb Bunt, who wrote the book entitled Slow Puncture about her bicycle riding partner, Peter Barry, and living with dementia. And this book has really taken off. It's fascinating and amazing how riding a bicycle can become such a valuable way to keep the brain engaged. I hope they're here. I just see a black screen.
In case they're popping on, I'll simply say this came together in two ways. One, I received a challenge that simply said, ask yourself, what is your business giving? On the same day, I got a message from the UK, this person saying, hey, I'd like to link in with you. And I was wondering, is there any way that the story, my friend's story, because this is a co-authored book, is there any way my friend's story could go out where people can access it? And little by little, talking with my husband and what he does, this is what happened over just about 4.5 days.
So I think Deb keeps coming in and out. So who knows? Technology works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but maybe we'll just keep going.
Okay, well, let's move on to our illustrious founder, Marianne Shuko, who has written a wonderful book entitled Blue Hydrangeas, an Alzheimer's love story. She, at the time that she got the idea for writing this book, was working in a care home as a nurse, caring for people with Alzheimer's, and had a brilliant idea about writing a book about it. And what came out of it is a most enjoyable story, combining a love story with caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's.
Thanks, Vicki. My story comes from the point of view of the husband in this couple who happen to be retired innkeepers on Cape Cod. And they're having a wonderful retirement when Alzheimer's strikes the wife. And the husband makes an impossible promise to her that they will stay at their home, their beautiful bed and breakfast called Blue Hydrangeas, and they'll stay there together until whatever happens. And over the course of many years, it becomes more and more difficult for him to keep her at home, for them to continue on in this big house alone together. So he has to make that terrible choice to turn her care over to others. And the story is a novel. It's a short novel, and it tells the story of what happens when they embark on this trip for her to be moved into a memory care home. And things happen to go awry, and the worst thing that could happen happens, and then it gets worse from there. So I won't give any spoilers, but it's a very poignant story. It's very sweet and full of a lot of love, and at the same time infused with a lot of knowledge about being a dementia caregiver and about the disease process itself.
Have you ever gotten any feedback from someone who's read the story and said, I was at this point in the journey and this helped, or I had no idea?
I've gotten all of that. One of my favorite comments was somebody who wrote to me and said, this story is my story too. Yeah, so that meant a lot to me. At the time when I wrote it, I did not have a personal experience with Alzheimer's. It was mainly as a professional until it struck my own family very close. So I started living my own story at one point after my book was published. But many people have written to say, it reminded them of their mom or whatever occurred in their life. And then there were people who knew nothing about this disease, but decided to pick up the book anyway and would write that they were, educated by it. They found it not only an enjoyable read, but they learned.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So we are live here on Amazon, and we're talking with the board, some of the board members and authors from Authors. And who's our next author we want to focus on?
Can I introduce Anne Campanella, who is also a member
Please.
of our management team? Anne is the author of Motherhood Lost and Found, which is a memoir where she shares her story of trying to become a mother at the same time while losing her own mother to this disease. So hi, Anne.
Hi. What a joy it is to see you all. And thank you so much for having us. This is really an honor. And I just have to say, I love AlzAuthors. I love these women. I love our authors. We have a really special community, and I feel blessed to be a part of it.
We're glad to have you. Can you tell us about your book?
Oh,
Can you tell us
okay.
about the book?
I'm actually scheduled to be in the second half of this program, but I'll jump in now if you want me to. This is my book, Motherhood Lost and Found. As I believe Marianne said, I was trying to become a mother when my mom first started showing signs of Alzheimer's. I was in my early 30s, and I lived on a horse farm. That's why the cover has a couple of horses on it. And the horses are the backdrop to my story. They really helped support me as I was going through loss after loss after loss. I had a series of miscarriages, and I was taking care of my mom for 14 years and just wondering, would I ever get out of this period of caregiving? Would I ever be taking care of my own daughter? And I have a quote that I wanted to share. It's not from my book, but I think it speaks to a lot of the work that we all do. It's by poet Edward Hirsch, and he says, "We are deepened by heartbreaks, not so much diminished as enlarged by grief, by our refusal to vanish, to let others vanish without leaving a verbal record." And I feel like that's one of the things we do. We embrace the loved ones in our lives. We embrace the story that each one of us is living. And we won't let them vanish. And that's really an honor and a gift to be a part of that kind of program.
This is an honor for us today, too. It's amazing to me, realized this morning that some of these AlzAuthors, Alzheimer's, different sorts of dementia, and of course, everything else that comes into life, some of these people are actually seeing each other for the very first time, but they've been part of this giant collective of over 300 books or 300 authors. Which one is it, Marianne?
Authors.
Over 300
Yeah.
authors.
Some of the authors have more than one book.
Thank you to the board members for bringing all these people and all of their words together and out here. Thank you, Anne, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
All right. So who do we have next, Marianne? Who's our next author we want to bring up?
I'd like to bring in on the screen one of our newer AlzAuthors contributors, and that's Pam Ostrowski. Hi, Pam. Unmute.
Unmute. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. That's okay. Each one of us.
You got it.
Each one of us are doing this.
So I have a podcast mic, and so I didn't realize that I wasn't able to control it from here. Sorry about that. Thank you, Marianne. This is absolutely wonderful to have this forum, because we need to help more families and help them become educated and understand the journey and see that they're not alone. So thank you again, Anne and Jean and Marianne.
And can you tell us about your book?
Sure. My book is It's Not That Simple, Helping Families Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. And it's really a handbook, a guidebook full of tips reflective of the journey that I had with my mom for 14 years. She went from dementia to Alzheimer's. She went non-vocal 8 years before she passed. She didn't have use of her legs, so she was in a wheelchair. So we went through the entire care continuum, all of the really hard decisions. And on top of that, along with the denial that Dad had for someone that he loved for over 60 years, just dealing with his own dementia in the last 3 years of his life, and trying to, be someone who runs a company, and on top of that is managing both parents' care and the emotional roller coaster that you go through. And so I've covered everything from the technical side of what's dementia versus Alzheimer's, to when do you talk about this difficult topic, through everything else. And I have some time at the end that I'll kind of go through some more details. But really, I wanted this book whenever I was in this situation. So having a guidebook is so important, and all of these other books that are available. It's just, buy them all now. Take advantage of Giving Tuesday, and you'll be set. And mine only takes 3.5 hours to read. So, and big print, which is really funny. Everybody always laughs at that. So thank you for the opportunity again.
That's great. I love it. All of the books are in the carousel, so people can click on those, take a look. They're available in different formats. So you can find it in Kindle. You can find paper, physical books, whatever works for you. Find the right one, click on them in the carousel.
There's too many wins all in a row. So a person is thinking about a friend or a neighbor, and they're thinking, what can I give them? They're in the middle of this journey. And here's a carousel filled, and then you can also look elsewhere, but that you're just like, I could get that and that. And without my paying another cent, I'm also clicking for AlzAuthors for them to receive 0.5%. And then you're getting your shopping done. You are blessing somebody. You are contributing to the continuation of this program, because it is not a money-making situation. And I'm sure that the board members can speak to that too, that this isn't a for-profit. Is that correct? Does
Yes,
anyone?
that is correct. We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. When we started, it was just the three of us using our own personal funds to cover any expenses, which were minimal at the time. But with the growth of the website, it started to be a little more costly to run the program. So we rely on donations from the community, from people, our author community, the caregiving community, other people and organizations interested in providing support and resources for Alzheimer's caregivers. And that's basically what we've been doing. We've used the Amazon Smile program. It works really well. If you click on one of the links, it brings you into the Amazon store. Anything you purchase in the next 24 hours, we can get a little bit of kickback from. So we get a little kickback from the total purchase of your sales. So that really helps. All those cents, they add up in the end. And nobody who works for us in our organization is on a payroll. We have no payroll. There are no financial benefits to being in AlzAuthors. We're all here to support each other.
Thank you.
All right. And who's next for our authors?
Jean Lee. We haven't heard about Jean's book yet. You need to unmute.
I'll tell you a little bit about my book, Alzheimer's Daughter. Both of my parents were diagnosed on the same day with Alzheimer's in 2006. And the book starts with a journal of oddities, the things that were happening with him from the very first suspicions that something was wrong and until both of them took their last breath. Within the dark times of the final clean out of their home, which I'm sure you've all gone through, I found my parents' World War II love letters, and those begin each chapter. And I really think their writing is more beautiful than my own. And it gives me some peace and solace that their voices, their authentic voices, are in this book. And readers have said it contrasts their love, passion, and commitment at the beginning of their relationship, which held them firm until their last breath.
Can you share with us a little bit about your trepidation at publishing the book, that you had some fears that related to revealing the family secrets?
I did. The book is honestly written, and my parents were very private people, a very respectful family. We did not disagree. I was growing up. My sister was a great support. But in the publishing of this, I really felt as though I was violating them by telling the truth about what was happening with them. I think guilt is one of the most common caregiver emotions that we feel at the time, and that is left lingering. And I would say it has been the formation of AlzAuthors and my ability to connect with all of our 300 plus authors and do something good, all of us together, that has absolved that guilt for me. I know my parents would be proud of what we've built. And I think as the management team, we really do feel as though our lost loved ones have brought us all together.
That's wonderful. You were honoring them, first of all, caring about them and doing some care with them, and then honoring them, saying, do I dare even look at their love letters that they've kept? My husband and I have love letters. He was also overseas in the military. And I think you just talked about that. Have we told our kids that there's love letters? Have we given them permission to look at them if we no longer are able to give thoughtful permission? And when I had a conversation with my daughter the other day, because I am an aging enthusiast, and I said, in the future, when we get to this point, I'm giving you permission today. You can put me somewhere. Her reaction was, but Mom, I just want to make sure that nothing bad happens to you. I want to make sure that it's a good place. And I thought, I need to give her permission to write and have it vetted by whoever will be in charge at AlzAuthors to be able to write about, the journey, because I'm already the type of person who I think, boy, I'm going to be fun if I'm really going to be fun if I don't have full control. I don't have full control anyway. So I appreciate you talking about how difficult that was. And you are obviously not the only one.
Wonderful. And Marianne, so who is our next author to focus on?
I think Dorothy Horn was supposed to be like the second person. I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you think that Deb Bunt is still waiting? No one else can get in the room.
No, she hasn't. I don't see her.
Okay, are there several people still in the waiting room?
If we can only have 10 people, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
Well, I know
Yeah,
there's
so
10 here,
we might be full up.
I'm getting emails from people saying I can't get in. So
yeah, because we can only have 10 people at a time.
Right.
Well, I have to leave, so that'll make room for somebody else. How's that sound?
Okay, Marianne. All right.
Oh,
It was great to meet you, and thank you for
Yes.
sharing.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we are here with the authors and some board members from AlzAuthors, and just having great conversation about the books, about the stories that have been written and shared, just to provide support and encouragement to those who are also living with themselves or family members with Alzheimer's and dementia. And also talking about the Smile program, because here at Amazon, you can contribute, smile.amazon.com. And we encourage everybody to take advantage of that. And right now, choose AlzAuthors as your nonprofit of choice. That way, your purchases this season can help benefit the work that's here at AlzAuthors. So thank you to all. So let's see. So Christy has joined us. Christy, glad to have you here. And
Yay. I see that Dorothy is unmuted. And so if I can jump in and just say, Dorothy, are you ready to talk to us about your book? Do you happen to have one right there with you?
Sure
Yes, she does. Go for it, Dorothy.
Okay. I'm Dorothy Horn, and it's such a privilege to be here. And I'm just like on the verge of tears, just hearing these stories and seeing the faces and of people that have previously just I've seen online and who have been such a help to me. So thank you all. Okay, so my book is called Glimpses of Grace, Walking in Hope Through Alzheimer's and Ordinary Days. And this is the story, the journey of my husband and I and our family. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and okay, I'm on being on TV. It's making me nervous. Let's see. Okay,
Right. Yeah, it's just us.
Okay. He was diagnosed in 2011. But I will back up a little bit and say prior to that, which goes along with how this book came about. Our daughter in 2007 was diagnosed after the birth of her first son with a severe mental illness. And so we were going back and forth to her town 3 hours away and helping take care of her for a few years. And during that time, she gave me permission in 2009. Well, I'm skipping ahead. So I wrote a letter to the editor in 2009 about what we had been seeing with mental illness and just how much it needed, the mental health system needed help, and on and on. It was a letter to the editor. Well, I got a note from the editor of the paper saying, you know, we'd like to run this on the Saturday forum page, which was kind of, you know, where people could send essays and all. Would that be okay? So I said, well, sure. And I had all these other thoughts that I wanted to write about too. And so I did that. And I said, you know, if you like that, I have a lot more things I want to say. So that started me like writing. I'd submit monthly to the editorial page on Saturday. And I also started submitting weekly to they offered me a blog site there. And then I started my own blog site. So I was writing a lot. And within my first articles in here are about mental illness, plus just since I was writing so much, one week I might write about something funny, the next week about mental illness, and just writing about life in general. When my husband got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I started writing about our journey. He, at first, probably just the first week, he did not want to share it with anyone. But then we talked about it and how we discussed how we had seen through our daughter's journey, just year, 2-3 years prior, how God's grace was even through that. We saw so many instances of God's grace. And we said, we talked and said, we can do the same thing through Alzheimer's journey because we know we will see God's hand and his grace in that too. And so he prayed and thought about it. And then he said a week later, okay, I'm all in. And he wrote a song. He was really creative. He wrote a song called I'll Never Forget Old Alzheimer. And played it for a group of friends at this poetry club we were a member of. And that's how he announced his diagnosis. And then we just went on living our lives this book goes through midway of his disease through early 2014. And just talked about the way I was honest, but I also, talked about our struggles and all, but just, we decided the main thing is just to, the main thing about our lives are not what happens to us, but rather what happens through us and how we can bring glory to God through it. And we decided we wanted to help others. And anyway, so he died in 2018. I'm trying to shorten this a little. I kept writing about my grief journey and about started becoming more of an advocate and became a board member of our local Alzheimer's Alliance. And so there's another, and all this time I'm sending these essays to the paper. So I have another collection of columns. The first were published in 2014. The second one will hopefully be published. They're in the works, hopefully maybe by this summer. And it'll be called Book 2, Glimpses of Grace, Walking in Hope Through Alzheimer's in Ordinary Days. So that's kind of a real short synopsis. Sorry, I was skipping around.
Not at all. This is exactly why we're doing this. There will be someone who will see this live right now. They might see it when it's ready to be seen, on demand. And they're going to say, oh, there's a person that's speaking what's coming out of my heart. There are people who this week said to me, oh, I couldn't write about this. I love talking about it, but I couldn't write about it. So all of the AlzAuthors are doing something for the sake of those who can't. And I appreciate that you have included, information that's specific to you, but it is true of everyone, that it's not going to be just Alzheimer's. It's going to be and mental illness and miscarriages and then you've put that together so that people realize this is not just, sterile and all in one box. So appreciate that. Thank you for sharing, Dorothy.
Thank you.
All right. And who's our next author to focus on?
Let's see. We already had Pam. I see that Catherine has joined us, but I believe Rebecca is one person who's been on screen with us for a while. And I want to make sure that Rebecca Warner gets her opportunity. And thank you, authors, for each of you saying who you are and showing us your book or saying it again so that I've got it here on paper, but some of you are just meeting each other for the first time on screen, or you've only seen each other in podcasts or recordings. So thank you, Rebecca. Tell us about you.
Hi, yes. First, I'd like to say I was so honored when Jean and Anne got in touch with me about becoming an AlzAuthors. And it really has been a wonderful experience. And I've read a number of books from the members. And I'm amazed at what people are able to, I gotta say it, endure and keep going. And it's just been a remarkable thing for me to learn so much more. But my book is called, it's a little different, My Dad, My Dog. And it's the story of Rachel, who moves her Alzheimer afflicted dad into the home she shares with her husband and her elderly Black Labrador. And her father, who is a former mailman who has been bitten too many times by dogs. This was before people had leash laws and fences. Dogs ran wild. And he wants nothing to do with her big Black Lab. Excuse me. But so she has to tend to them separately. And as she does, she realizes that these two souls whom she loves deeply are going through the same aging processes. And she's seeing the similarities as they both age. And in researching the book, I spoke with a psychologist at Memory Care here in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's a wonderful organization that helps families, both the patients and the families, cope with taking care of an Alzheimer's patient. And I said, can dogs get dementia? Because my dog seems to be getting the same dementia my dad has. And she said, yes. And one thing that was true that she said is dogs live a long time now. They live well, they're tended to, they live inside, they get regular vet care. And so they tend to live longer too. So dogs can also get dementia. So in the book, because the two are separated, she has to tend to them separately, but she realizes that they need each other. and they know they need her, but do they need each other too? And so she's working against time to bring them together so that they can take that journey that they were meant to share. And so that's the premise of My Dad, My Dog.
I was surprised that this is a true life experience that people who enjoy authoring, enjoy reading, can take that and put it into a story. And I did hear someone recently, just watching things online, people saying, I could put it there. I couldn't share exactly what happened to me. That was too much, but I could put it there and I could live through that character. And it just reminds me of being a kid who was in drama, and people were always shocked when I get up on the stage and I was loud and moving around and performing a character. And the rest of the time I was carrying my books down the hallway and going to class. I could be a different person there. And it was, that's what I'm seeing in some of the authors, is that they could put that out there. And then we have the other authors who have written all the way through, all through the entire thing. And then some who afterwards, this was maybe the beginning of healing, or it was just a place to put it because it was still burdening them. So thank you, Rebecca.
Say something else. It was remarkable to me how many people privately emailed me, because it was in the back of the book, and told me about their experiences with their parents and their pets. It touched they'd never seen anybody write about that before. And so, yes, what you're saying is absolutely true. People related to it because it had happened to their pets.
So these are great. We got authors and board members from AlzAuthors sharing stories about dementia and Alzheimer's here on Amazon Live. If you happen to be watching this stream on a platform other than Amazon, I encourage you to go to motivationallistener.live and come on over. We've got 40 different books in the carousel you can click on, take a look at. These are great stories, great helpful books, lots of perspectives. And maybe you or someone one of the great things about Amazon is that you can buy something as a gift and put their address in it. Somebody that might need this book, you can have it delivered directly to them. Just select their address when you buy it and have that book sent to them. So we are here with AlzAuthors. I'm going to get that right by the time we're done here. It's a lot of fun to have you guys here. And I thank you for the hearts and putting yourselves out and writing these stories and sharing them. It's not easy to do. It's a challenge. So thank you for doing that and sharing these stories. This is Giving Tuesday. And I just want to remind people that you can select AlzAuthors for your donations to go to this organization to support the promotion of the authors. Now, there is no paid staff. The funds that come in, any donations that they get, are just paying the hard costs that they have to do, like hosting their website and so forth. So definitely a great organization to be a part of. Smile.amazon.com, and then select AlzAuthors. And when you make purchases, Amazon's going to donate based on the total sales, a percentage, and doesn't cost you anything, and is a great thing to do. So here we are. And who is next?
I was going to suggest Senya Owensby, because I've been looking at her beautiful braid this whole time since we began. And so while my husband gets her all ready and while she unmutes so that she can be ready to talk, you are fantastic. I was just going to say, a few of you are really comfortable being on screen. But 3 months ago, I wasn't on any screens. And so I'm so proud of each of you who are going, I'm going to do this. It's worth it. There's going to be someone out there who's looking for a gift for someone else who goes, oh, and they have an aging dog, and my friend, my loved one, and I know that they're worried about who's going to pass first or whether they're going to be able to continue and endure. And there it is. If I give that to them, it will really make a difference in feeling like I'm not the only one who has hit this. But it can feel that way because you don't advertise, hey, guess what? I'm caregiving, oh, guess what? Does everybody know I don't wear a badge that says that I'm doing that? And by the way, I am a professional caregiver, and I have worn badges, and I have cared for people in public as on their choosing. But most people are family caregivers, which we've been celebrating and bringing into awareness all this month of November, National Family Caregivers Month. And this is a great way to end it up on Giving Tuesday. Would you please pronounce your name so that I can learn it?
Senya Onsby. It's Finnish, so it's a little different.
Beautiful. Do you actually have your physical book with you right now?
I do.
Yay.
Yeah.
So this is your opportunity. Go for it. I love the cover.
Okay. It's Finishing Well in Life, and it's Finding the Joy in Dementia. Those aren't two separate ones. It's just, I just had that little and in there. But as you can see, so my mama had Alzheimer's for over a decade. And we decided early on, we tried to find books or some kind of help to figure out how to help her through this and how to go with her on this journey. And there wasn't a lot available. So we decided that we were going to focus on joy. And we wanted, if it made mama happy, we were going to do it. We just figured that was our guidelines. So we did as much as we could that she wanted to do. We watched musicals. We sang. We went swimming. She was a great swimmer. I mean, I put floaties on her, but we just did everything that she wanted to do, and we felt like we could give her this quality of life that however long it was going to go on. Well, then people started asking us, like, oh, you're taking care of your mama. How does that go? And asking us questions. And we had all these stories we gathered up. It was like, oh, we went swimming, or we went to a concert, or, just whatever it is we did, went on a walk. And so I started realizing that all of these stories, we could collect them all up and maybe put them in a book, and maybe have that out there as available. And Amazon, I'll tell you, is really great for this, because it was just, didn't have to find a publisher and all of that. So that worked out really good for us. But so we put it together, and we was my husband and I and my sister. It was kind of like a family project, and taking care of mama. And so anyway, we did it, and it's like then I discovered AlzAuthors, and wow, I feel so blessed to be a part of that organization. It's got all these books now that I wish that had been available back when we started. But anyway, so we just it's a bit humorous, it's a bit practical, it's got pictures of her, because I find when I'm reading something, I like to see who it is that I'm reading about. So I put in pictures of her, and she was funny. She was sweet. She was gracious, and I really wanted that to come across. Her standard statement when anyone asked her, as long as she could think of saying that, was they'd say, "How are you doing?" She'd go, "I'm in good shape for the shape I'm in." And then she would say that, and I think by rote. So even later, when she didn't even realize she was responding that way, it's like, "I'm in good shape for the shape I'm in." But she was always sweet. And there were some surprising things we discovered in this process. She loved to sing. And so we would sing and sing and sing. And I know a lot of other people have discovered this too. But when she could no longer talk, she could still sing. Yes. And so we would spend hours singing all of her songs. She had her like little list of songs, and My Wild Irish Rose, and, you know, Maresy Dotes, and all these songs. And we'd sing them over and over. And it was just an amazing thing. And so I really wanted that captured in this book. And so anyway, I don't know what all to say about it. I love to write. I loved caring for Mama. It took too long and it went by too fast sometimes. It was just, you know, joys and sadness. And we just went through it and walked on this journey. And now our hope is to help other people when they're on their journey. So I know I talk a lot.
We forgot to, you know, have a disclaimer saying if you don't have a box of Kleenex nearby, you know, you could get your device wet. You know, it's not our fault. You know, you needed to have Kleenex nearby. And I don't mean that in a funny way. I mean that I knew what today would be like, and I'm still going, oh my goodness. So someone is viewing this and they're furiously jotting down notes, and they can, you know, they can look in the carousel, they can go, now they know it's AlzAuthors. ALZ is the beginning of Alzheimer's. So ALZ, authors with an S on the end, because there's more than 300 of you. And some of you have written several different things. I know that Marianne, who is one of the founders, she has been now published in a famous series of books. She was given a chapter, and that was a big celebration as people were putting that out there. And so beyond her own books, someone said, yes, that one chapter that you submitted many months ago, it has been approved. So it'll be out too. You know, it's so exciting that you think, oh, this is going to be seen by someone, and someone else is just as excited going, oh, someone who's speaking my language, who's singing my song. So Senya, thank you so much for singing with your mama, because you gave her emotional memory. And that just carried her through. And in the darkest time, as a professional caregiver, in darker times or more exit seeking, there's all these words, times of that there's nothing that I can do to stop this cycle of difficulty, anxiety. And then singing starts to happen, and then a little bit more, and then something silly, or something that maybe is a crying song, that's a sad song that they remember. And just like for any of us at any age with any diagnoses in our life, a song can make a difference. So thank you.
It really can.
Oh, you're muted.
We'll bring Christy up to the main stage now. There we go.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I'm delighted to be here, and I was so delighted to get a call from Marianne, and I mean, I was just tickled to death, and it's been wonderful getting people a little bit. I love seeing the faces of these other authors that I've never met. They're all amazing, and I'm happy to be a part of this company. It's great. This company of people,
Right.
Wonderful. So I wrote a book. I am listening to you, and I feel like I hear so much of what people are saying in my own story, right? And Christine, you talked about how people can see themselves in some of this, and that's what's so powerful and healing. And that's what I found in my journey. I wrote a book called Building a Legacy of Love, Thriving in the Sandwich Generation. Both my parents did have, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and my dad had vascular dementia. And I do talk about that a lot in the book, but much like Pam, I sort of wrote the book that I needed. And I wrote it after my parents passed away. They both passed away 7 weeks apart in 2015. But my book starts with my dad had passed away and my mom was very ill. We didn't know it at the time, but in addition to her Alzheimer's, she also had a reoccurrence of cancer in her body. She'd been a survivor of breast cancer for about 20 years, but we didn't know what was going on, but that's what we ended up finding out. But this was all occurring at the same time that my kids were growing up, and I'm working full time, and my husband's working full time, and I'm a parent, and my kids are starting to grow up, and I'm giving them more independence while I'm starting to do more for my parents. And that whole like back and forth and caring for both ends of the developmental spectrum was kind of making me I was a little nutty. And I had to stop and think about, at one point, my kids were my greatest teachers, and they'd say, Mom, you need to be nicer to Grandma. You know, they were better with her memory than I was at times. And it was such a wake-up call for me. But the story opened, the memoir, it's some memoir and then just some pieces that I put together. My son was going off to college out of state at the time that my mom was really in the hospital. We didn't know what was going on. And it's just those critical choices. It was those choices I never wanted to have to make. My mother, my child, my mother, my child. It was hard all the time. And I called the book Building a Legacy of Love because I really reflected on how much my parents had given me as a person, and not just, they took care of their finances. So I was lucky that I didn't have to take care of them financially. They had written everything out in a trust, so I didn't have to worry about what their end of life wishes were. And that to me was the legacy of love that they gave me. And I tried to put in my book, here are things that we can pass on to our kids. And what I had to realize is our children are all, the backdrop to all of this is I'm a school psychologist. I just retired this year. I'm now in California, a licensed educational psychologist. But, I work with kids all the time. And what I know is kids are always learning. But we're not always intentional about what we're teaching, right? So here I am trying to do everything for everybody, and I'm frazzled. And what did my kids learn is like, I needed to step back and realize this is my opportunity to have a legacy of love with my kids. What my parents passed on to me was taking care of things, right? And now I needed to step up and do that. And I needed to think about how I interacted with my parents, because I want my kids to be the empathetic and caring human beings that they are. So that's really a lot about what my book is about. It's sort of broken up into lots of different stories about my parents and the struggles we had in taking care of them. And what I've heard from people over and over again is, you're telling my story. And I am going through this struggle right now. And I have to tell you, the interesting thing for me is, I published this, as I told you, my parents died in 2015. I wrote and wrote and wrote, mostly to kind of untangle things for myself and deal with my own grief and my learning. But I finally put it together and published it in April of this year. And based on the year of COVID, 2 years of COVID, right? Everything, people in the sandwich generation are feeling the squeeze really big right now. And we're seeing more and more of this going on. So it's just it's very fascinating to me, but it was a labor of love. I love it. And I am working with different groups right now and kind of talking about how parents can rise to this challenge and how are we moving through this time period. So that was my story.
That is one of the aspects that will be true to everyone. And that is, what it does to you emotionally. Here you are, a psychologist, and you know this is happening to you. These psychological factors are happening to you, and you are just going, I am going to put that out there. And once you did, so I even think about someone who is thinking about writing, and they are viewing this, and they're, so I want to make sure I know that my husband is noticing that Deb is
Yeah,
on.
let's bring Deb in and put her on the stage while we've got her connection.
Yes.
Excellent.
Oh, and we lost her again. All right.
She's
Vicky,
just too far
let's go
over
to-
the pond.
So let's go to Vicky. Vicky, go ahead.
She emailed me. She's so disappointed. If she comes back on, you can just interrupt me and I'll talk later.
There she is. She's in.
Good. Deb, don't move.
I think it's cut out. It's been cutting out for the last hour, but we'll see.
You're up.
You go
Go
right
ahead.
ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, tell us about your book and your friend Peter.
Okay, well, I've left Peter behind now because it was a little late for him. Our book is called Slow Puncture, as I'm sure you've seen from the carousel below. And basically, there are 5 threads in the book. There's Peter's experiences of living with a diagnosis of early onset dementia. There's how he lives each moment and how he values each moment. There's how my perceptions of dementia changed, having met Peter, and how my whole attitude has changed. And
Is her picture frozen for everyone else as well?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the person who started this. Keep going, Deb. You go right ahead.
I feel we're going to cut out again at any minute. So what I'd like to do, if I can, is just read one quote from Peter's book. Well, it's a book that Peter will never read, but a book I wrote for him. Suddenly, I had become a general on the battlefield of dementia, a warrior fighting, ready for the fight ahead. My brain cells were my soldiers, and I knew I would spend my time watching my soldiers fall. I knew I'd be powerless some days, but there would be days when I would be in charge. All of us with this condition are dementia warriors.
I love what she said, and I don't see her on screen at this moment. I love what she said and what he said about being a warrior, because this is me or my husband in the future. If we are end up with this, it's a fight, but it's a fight that you can do with someone. In Deb's situation, she is a friend.
All right, Deb, we got you back.
This must be quite...
Yep, it's a challenge, but we just want to say thank you and give us a last word before you drop off, just in case. All right. Well. All right. Well, we're going to have to pass on finishing up with Deb because the connection keeps dropping there. But Vicky, maybe you can share a word and talk about your book as well.
Okay. My book is called Somebody Stole My Iron, a family memoir of dementia. And this book actually started as my coping mechanism for caring for both my parents who had dementia at the same time, like Jean's parents. I started out writing as a way to unload all my troubles each day. And little did I know I was writing my book. About a year into it, I thought, I think I'm writing a book. So I continued taking notes. And I had quite a big stack by the time my parents passed on. I had written the book. And like Jean, I had a lot of guilt thinking I shouldn't, this is so private, I shouldn't be exposing my parents to the world. Changing names helped, but it was a risk for me to do this. I just knew I had to, though, because like many of the others of us have said, I wrote the book I needed. There just wasn't much out there in the early 2000s other than medical guidebooks. So I felt compelled to share my journey with other people and offer them the lessons I've learned along the way and how they might avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into. I was so totally unprepared to be a caregiver. I've learned a lot now. If I could go back and redo it, I would do things differently. I've just learned so much. But we didn't recognize my mom's Alzheimer's disease. In the beginning, we just chalked it up to old age, forgetfulness, things, senior moments. But I think the turning point started when we were having a 90th birthday party for my dad, and their oldest granddaughter, my niece, came to the door, and my mom didn't know who she was. And we all were a little mystified by that. Looking back, I mean, there were so many things that happened that we just normalized. I think that was something, if we could have gotten her diagnosed sooner. People are so much more aware today, though. And my dad had Parkinson's-related dementia. Their dementias were very different. My mom was very unruly, I guess I would say. And the book is mostly about her because she was the most colorful character.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not an easy journey. I was alone on the journey as my sibling chose not to be involved. I'm not sure how many of you have heard, I'd rather remember them the way they were, which was the reason I was given. And I, thank goodness, had a supportive husband who helped me along the way. I think just recognizing that it's important for us to join the other person's reality would have been such a big help had I known it at the time, instead of my attempts to bring my mom into reality. Would have been much better to join her in hers. There were so many lessons to learn. And I think through AlzAuthors, the grief that I experienced after their deaths, they died a year and a day apart, which is unusual, a day after my birthday. But just grieving over that journey and then coming together with these other people in AlzAuthors has helped me to heal from the grief that I experienced from losing them both in this way. And I believe that if there was anything good to come out of this whole experience, it was the fact that I was brought together with these other people, and now we are doing our best to reach as many people as we can to help light their way and maybe soften the journey in some way.
Yeah, I love that a lot of people have used writing to kind of help ease, but to be able to take that and put it into a form and be willing to share it, it's really opening yourself up. And I definitely appreciate that. And also, and we've talked about this before, Vicki, that so many people feel like they're the only ones, or they're like the first person to ever have to go through this. And you feel like you're blazing the trail, because in many cases, we don't learn about it until we need it to care for a family member. And then when you're done, you don't have to remember it. And so it doesn't carry on. So the work of AlzAuthors is really important, to be able to pull these books and stories, memoirs together and be a support. And again, I really want to say a big thank you to all of the members of the community of AlzAuthors. Very supportive. And if just sending out there this to anybody, AlzAuthors is definitely a group that you want to be a part of, or someone that you know might want to be a part of it, to find the support that they need to help carry them through a very emotional time where there's a lot of big decisions that have to be made that maybe we're not prepared for. So this is
I
been
sure
a really
wasn't.
great. This is really great.
Yeah, decision making was probably the thing I struggled with most throughout the journey. Was I making the right decision or the wrong decision and the best decision? It was challenging. Yeah. So yes,
Well,
if we
thank you,
can
Vicki.
help in any way for other people along the way, that's yeah.
So let's bring in our next author. Who do we have next on that?
Well, it looks like it could be Catherine, another our other fifth board member who has written a children's book.
Hi, everyone.
All right, Catherine.
Nice
Thank
to
you
see
for joining
everyone.
us.
Nice to see all these live. Yeah, so I am a bit of a different book than you guys have talked about before. My journey was with my mom, who actually had early onset dementia. And I had a strange progression of having children as my mom. So my children were born when my mom was diagnosed. My youngest was born. So I had this strange progression of my children growing up as my mom progressed through the disease. But what I think has already been touched on by, I think Christy mentioned it, is my children were very wise and actually helped me a lot coping with my mom's progression. My dad was actually her primary caregiver, and I lived in a town about an hour away. I'm a Canada, I'm the token Canadian. If you hear me say about, you know that I'm a Canadian. My kids were young though, so I was actively caring for babies and young kids as my mom progressed. And we know now that she had frontal temporal degeneration. And at the time, we didn't know what kind of dementia it was. It was very fast progression, and it had lots of different signs and symptoms of different types of either Alzheimer's disease or other dementia. But as other people also mentioned, the diagnosis was not really firm until she passed away, and we had an autopsy done to understand what was causing the dementia. So I had little kids with me, and I always took them to visit their Nana. And they actually taught me so much about the disease. They taught me to be open, to accept my mom, to sing a song and not worry about what was happening as much as we as adults often do. And as a result of that, I really wanted to share something that could help other children be brought into this journey. And at the time, there was very few children's books that dealt with the subject of dementia or Alzheimer's. There's lots more now. I published my book in 2016. So in the last 5 or 6 years, there's been a lot more books. I think there's another woman who's going to share her book later. But my one is called Weeds in Nana's Garden. There it is. And the other thing that was different about me was instead of healing through writing, this book I illustrated as well. And so it was a healing through drawing and painting. So I actually was physically crying as I actually did some of the illustrations in my book. My focus was about telling kids in a language that they could understand what was happening to their Nana or their grandpa, so that they could feel more comfortable connecting and keeping that connection alive. My daughter actually gave me the idea of the book, and because it's called Weeds in Nana's Garden, it kind of follows this whole metaphor about how as my mom progressed to the disease, she was an extremely avid gardener, and she had this incredibly beautiful garden. And as she progressed, like the last thing on any of our minds was caring for this garden. So the garden would start to get more and more overwhelmed with weeds, and nobody was picking the weeds and picking the flowers and tending to the garden. So the garden represented kind of like what was happening with my mom. And my daughter and I would be walking in the garden, and my mom loved to pick flowers. And so my daughter, who I think was 6 at the time, said, "Mom, it's so hard to find the flowers. Like there's so many weeds, we can't find the flowers anymore." And I was like, yeah. And then I had an opportunity later to explain again to my daughter that my mom's brain was changed, and it was like she couldn't see, she couldn't find the words, she couldn't find the thoughts that she had before. And it was, my daughter said, like the weeds in the garden. And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, Mom, Nana's brain, it's like the weeds in the garden. They're in the way of the flowers, and the disease is in the way of Nana's thoughts. And so that idea from her own observation was what really was the spearhead behind the book. Yeah. And since then, which was a long time ago, I actually have it published in multiple languages, German, Portuguese, French. We just published it in Denmark as well. And it's been extremely positive to be able to get kids all around the world an opportunity to share the story together.
Alzheimer's is international. I wonder, in a country that, is there a book somewhere that's only been written in that language, and that author is going to listen to this and go, oh, I never thought of that. I could approach someone about putting this in other languages. We heard earlier from someone whose background was Finnish, and it's exciting to me. Catherine, you are part of the board. And
Yes.
That's what part of the reason, a big part of the reason that we're even doing this today is that it's not a for-profit situation. Other publishing situations, you get a percentage. So Catherine, if you would explain a little bit about what you do to keep AlzAuthors going, and also just to let viewers know why we're doing this as an awareness that Amazon Smile, or smile.amazon.com. Did I do that right? You could find
exactly
AlzAuthors. Right. Yay. You could find AlzAuthors, ALZ, AlzAuthors, plural, because there's more than 300. And without paying one more cent yourself, you can actually click and send them 0.5%. Could you tell us about your job there? Your job there.
Of the purchase price, and it's out of Amazon's profits. So it doesn't hurt the authors. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does benefit AlzAuthors. Catherine, go ahead.
Yes. Well, we talked about our authors and our growing number of authors. I guess I'm the website girl. I'm kind of the management of the website functions. And because we're bigger, we're growing, we've got more books, more traffic. You're experiencing traffic issues right now with this call. We need to put more and more resources to make sure that our website works properly, works quickly, and can support all the authors and all the people coming to find us. The other big thing I'm managing right now is Google, and we actually are a Google nonprofit, and we are working on advertising at Google and getting the word out so more people can find us easily as well, which is kind of part of the website, make sure our website has proper search engine optimization and is fast and easy to use, which is the things that Google wants in order to our site to be found by those who need it. So that's one of the things I work on. And that's why we need some more help, because the costs of running a larger site go up.
All right.
And the more we can get the word out, the more people we can help. Here. And so we're just trying to do that.
Catherine, thanks for your work.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that it's
well
people know the money is not going to salaries. It's not going to expensive office furniture or board retreats. It's just going to pay the expenses to let people know about these great books that are out there. So thank you for that. We've got some new authors in. Who do we want to bring up next?
It helps if I'm not muted. Malia Klein is next.
Hi,
right.
I'm Malia, and I've been listening intently to what everyone has to say, and a lot of things have resonated with me. One thing that we haven't mentioned that AlzAuthors, the has done in the past. I can't say it either. In the Carolinas, Ann Campanella, who's one of the board members, the organizers, put together a AlzAuthors traveling library. And we've taken it before COVID times to various events and really connected with people. And I think that really brought home to me going out and doing that this is a community of comfort. There's no doubt about it. And people walk up to you all the time, the shared experience, talking about, oh, that's exactly what I've been through, and tell me about that. And one of the things that I have been approached most about is combative family relationships. And we all experience, we just had Thanksgiving, so we know all about that, right? When you get around the table and people have differing opinions about family matters and the world in general. And basically that's what my book is about. It's called Sisterly Shove. It is a memoir, and it basically chronicles the 13-year journey that my sister and I were involved in when our mom died of pancreatic cancer, and that left our dad, who had Alzheimer's, to be cared for. I lived in the Carolinas. She lived in California. So we had this bi-coastal battle over what was the right thing to do. And like I say, people come up to me all the time and say, oh my gosh, my brother is crazy or whatever. We just cannot get on the same page. So she and I, over those 13 years, fought about just about everything. And, there's also this decision about, do I let my family member, be in the care of others? Should they go to a memory facility of some sort to live rather than living in the home? And that is, I think, one of the toughest decisions, especially for a family like mine, where generations of women took care of people in their homes. And a lot of people, after they turned 85, have gotten dementia in my family. So my perspective was that my dad would get more social stimulation, probably better care in a memory care facility. And I had an 8-year-old daughter who needed to go to soccer practice, and I worked, and, all the things around that. While my sister, who was a physician in California, thought I had incarcerated him in an undesirable place. So she came to town. She lived in his room for several days, and then she elder napped him out of the facility, took him to California, and quit practicing medicine so that she could care for him 24/7. So along the way, as you can imagine, it's an interesting book because, there are two sides to every story. Somebody in your family is going to think differently than you do about how to care for someone with dementia. And so basically we wrote the book together. Amazingly enough, we didn't kill each other, but we alternate chapters, and she gives her perspective about situations, and I give my perspective about situations. From Greenland, where he was stationed among the fjords and the icebergs and that, kind of magical. But anyway, his poetry between the chapters that she and I wrote. So all I would say is, try to have a plan with your family. Try to decide in advance, do some care planning, some roadmaps, something to where people take different roles, use their own strengths so that you don't just totally butt heads when you're in a crisis situation. So anyway, that's Sisterly Shove, and thank you very much for having me here. And, it strikes me that the Amazon Smile program is kind of like caregiving. It allows you to consistently give back, and that's what caregivers have to do, is you consistently give back. And, if you're like me today on Giving Tuesday, I've been throwing little pieces of money here and there, but again, the program allows you to give back consistently. So thank you very much for for having the program and for having me.
Yeah, it's a great deal. We love being able to support the nonprofits and people if they choose through the Smile program, choose AlzAuthors, then the purchases that you make when you use smile.amazon.com at anytime during the year, not just now on Giving Tuesday or during this holiday season, will be recorded as a gift. They'll get a portion of that is a percentage from the profits from Amazon donated directly to the nonprofit. And it's just, the money just shows up. And so the more you buy, the more AlzAuthors can benefit. So Malia, thank you so much. It's again, a good perspective. And I know a lot of people with family members have to kind of, there's a whole nother dimension to navigate.
Sure.
All right. And so with that, who do we want to bring on next?
Next up is Andrea.
Andrea. All right. We'll have you unmute and we'll bring you there. We go. All right.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
You are good.
Okay. So my book is a memoir and it's called Embracing What Remains. You can see it here and behind me. It's about my dad who was diagnosed at 67. He was a recently retired surgeon. And like Catherine and Anne, I had children, small children. I was even pregnant. And then had a baby the year my dad was diagnosed. So my book kind of discusses the sandwich generation and caregiving and just kind of like the things my family went through while he was going through his journey, which he currently is still on. He is end stage Alzheimer's, but I decided to write the memoir and end it before his journey was over, just to kind of talk about more years during and kind of before his life ends, just to give people that perspective as well. So it's a story too, kind of about how I expected our relationship to be one thing in his retirement, and it sort of took a different turn, where he was a physician that became a patient, and I became the child who really became more of, the parent in a way. And just, unexpected relationships but also joy and some humor. And I got to know my dad in a different way and really bonded my family in some ways. So I just wanted to tell my story. I was only 37 when my dad was diagnosed, so I felt like it was a little bit of a different perspective, but now I'm learning that I have some other co-authors who are also on that same journey. So that's nice to hear. But one of my goals was to join AlzAuthors when I wrote my memoir, and I was so happy when I was accepted into the group. So thank you. And I just hope to continue to share our story, my family's story, and help others who feel the same way. So, yeah.
AlzAuthors must be very, very well read. They vet each of these books. They get to know you, the author. They are just pouring so much time into this. Andrea, can I just ask you one more question? I'm going to have her. Yeah,
of course.
Thank you. Because I'm in my 60s,
Mm-hmm.
and most of what I've been doing recently has been with other families in their personal homes. Do you, in your book, do you talk about how he was before the diagnosis as well as after the diagnosis?
Yeah. So a lot of my book is reflection on who my father was as a man, as a father, as a physician. And so I kind of interweave it through my story. So you get to know the man before the diagnosis. And I've had some of his caregivers have chosen to read it, and they said they've been really grateful to learn about him before he was where he is now. It kind of helps really shape the whole person for them. So,
and that's being pushed forward at VA homes, even in hospitals where someone is temporarily, it's like, people will put up pictures, like, this is who you're talking to. You're talking to a surgeon. And a person that just walks in and they just need to get the job done. It isn't that they are dispassionate, but suddenly they're just like, doctor, it's probably not Couture, your
No,
father.
it's Gamelli. Yeah, well, my
Gamelli.
maiden name. Yeah.
Dr. Gamelli, I am so glad to meet you. I'm just going to take I'll be doing this, about this, and that they could speak to them rather than, hello, boom, 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 and they're out, and that helps the family. And that would help me if someone referred to me as who I am, what I used to do, what's important to me. Thank you for answering that question.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really a great point, that in so many cases we see each other always in a moment in time. And if you haven't known that person up to that point, we don't know who they were. So, Andrea, what a great opportunity to share that background, to share your father, really the whole person. So, what a beautiful thing. All right. So, who do we have next?
We have Melon Brittenberg.
All right. Melon, we'll bring you on over here.
Hey, I'm unmuted.
Okay, good.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for doing this, AlzAuthors. I know you give an incredible amount of time and energy and thought, and it is greatly appreciated. And I'm so happy to be aboard. I'm rather new. My book came out in March. I should say April, but my book is unusual, I guess, because it's a humor book. And I write funny. And I started out as an essayist, a humor essayist. And my first essay was published, or my second essay was published by the New York Times. So I figured I was on a roll. And I branched into journalism, and I had a cable TV show. But when Mom started to be not herself, if you will, I was working full time and had for many years as an attorney. And part of my practice was either representing people who had dementia in guardianship proceedings, or I had to write reports for judges. So I came armed, you would think, with some knowledge, but I was in a state of utter denial and panic. And when my mom started to do weird things like, take off her clothes, the first thing I said when Mom took off her clothes in front of a big picture window, I said, Mom! I forgot that Mom was already declining. And by the time I took her to a neurologist, she was quite declined. And I was shocked when they asked her to minus 13 from $1, $1 and take away 13 cents. And she couldn't say what was left, and she didn't know her address. Well, at that point, I already knew that Mom had Alzheimer's, but I just, wanted to do it all myself. I was working full time as an attorney. I had a long commute. I had just gotten divorced and moved into my mother's house temporarily when, it all started to just kind of, I'd say fall apart, but in funny ways. Like she started to climb up on a stepladder. She wasn't very stable on her feet. So I had to figure out a way to get the stepladder out of the house. She would say things. I say, the shyest person on the planet. So between her taking off her clothes in front of a picture window or just saying something to people when we were on a cruise together, that she would never, ever give her opinion. She actually had a good sense of humor. She used to say that my father, who had been dead many years, she said, I call him voiceover because he talks for the two of us. So she was a very shy and retiring person. And I didn't want to leave her home all day by herself. So as she declined more, I got help in to take her to senior citizen centers. And when I look at a picture of my mother in a crazy wig for Halloween, I had to show it to my older sister to believe it. My mom was just not one of these people that let loose ever, So what I describe is kind of the crazy, silly things I did out of not knowing. If you don't bring home the thing that they want you to eat, you'll get a real big dressing down. You have to understand about their belongings. My mother had a thing about moving the car seat. When I drove her car, she was still driving. I think before she might have been in the early stages of dementia, but I didn't realize it. And she just was beside herself if I made the seat different and then and didn't move it back to its original position. So I learned a lot, even though I had learned about stuff in seminars. I don't know. Humor runs in our family. That's how we deal. My son, Matt Ritter, is a stand-up comic who runs a comedy room in Hollywood, the Hollywood Improv. So that's what my book's about. I'll show you a picture. I think I would have preferred if my illustrator didn't put the crack that you see in the picture for Why Is Grandma Naked? But it is kind of funny. Yeah, and if you want to ask me any questions about my book, I'm happy to address them. But I'm told that there's lots of laugh out loud lines, and I'm hoping that you laugh. And I say, this is what I did. I don't give advice, but I say what worked and what didn't for me. So, if it works for you, fine, but I'm not giving any advice.
Oh my goodness. Ellen, I'm so glad. I was going to ask you, and say the name of your book, and the title is?
I sure will. Sorry, I'm very bad at self-promoting, obviously, today. Why Is Grandma Naked? And as you can see, I made them change the picture because my mother was a fashionable woman. She died at 95, but she still was wearing denim jackets, and they gave her a bun. So I said to my illustrator, can you get rid of that bun? Because we don't want those stereotypes to prevail, you know? A lot of I hear all these stories about people whose parents were surgeons. My mother used to read 3 books a week. And so that was part of my denial. I was really proud of Mom and her cognition that was so high in her 90s and her elephant's memory. And I think it makes it harder for you to accept when your parent is very high functioning intellectually, you know?
I can see a viewer going, okay, I'm going to buy that book when I just need a laugh. And I need to go, you know what? It's happening. You know what? Just laugh it off. And then I'm going to buy that book when I am not happy with one of my siblings and we're not seeing eye to eye. And I'm going to buy that book for my daughter because she's feeling sandwiched because she thinks that I'm starting to lose it too. And they're going to have their own library. Thank you so much for putting who you are into that book. And that's really interesting to know that your son doesn't improv. What was that in Hollywood?
Well, my son, his name is Matt Ritter. He's a successful stand-up comic who also writes screenplays, and he writes really funny, and he can write, serious as well. But we love writing funny because it's a skill that, I guess it's a blessing because I'm way funnier on the page than I am in person, although I can make fun of myself with the best of them,
I'm hysterical in my imagination. It doesn't come out. It doesn't come out as good as I think it does.
Well, what do the naked?
Yeah, make a picture of something really weird you wanna say, but you don't pluck it out from your head. That might be therapeutic,
Yeah, I love the
Animals authors. You guys rock, really, and I hope people are giving because it's a giving group, and we all want to share, and we all want to see each other succeed. Is there anything nicer?
Yay.
Malia, you were going to say?
I was going to say that, I've never seen anybody put the word naked out there before. So I'm glad you did because my father was definitely a nudist. And I was thinking maybe there could be a memory care community that was a nudist college. Sorry.
My mother, I confess, my mother was also a nudist. She was also always in the middle of the night running around swearing like a sailor naked. Not my mom.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, these are great stories, and we do, when we go through those deep emotions of life, we do need the humor. We need to be able to find that, And so, Ellen, thank you for bringing that. We do have your book highlighted. Why is Grandma Naked? We've got it highlighted in the carousel. I'm encouraging there are 40 books in here. That's a sampling of what's available and being curated at AlzAuthors. And so thank you for joining us. I just want to remind everybody that's watching, smile.amazon.com, choose your favorite nonprofit. In this case, we're recommending AlzAuthors. You can meet them right here. We've got the chat open, and we've got other folks saying, yes, my mom used to take her clothes off too. So it's something that happens. And laugh about it. Don't be worried about it. Just laugh about it. And so we do have all the books. Click on the books, buy the books, add it to cart, buy with one click, put it on your Kindle, send it to a friend. There's somebody that you know that needs Ellen's book, somebody that needs a laugh, and also some just to know that you care, just to know that someone cares is so important in our lives. So we are grateful to all the authors here. So who do we have next?
Next on our list is Paulette Sharkey, who has the children's book to share with us.
Good.
Thank you so much for the chance to be here. It's such a privilege to be part of AlzAuthors. I am the author of a children's book, A Doll for Grandma. And I was inspired to write it from my experiences. Two things. One was caring for two relatives with dementia, and the other was my 15 years of experience as a volunteer pianist playing music for residents in memory care homes. And one of the most important things I learned from all of those experiences, and the thing that I wanted children to understand, is that the best way to interact with someone who has dementia is to join them in their world rather than trying to correct them and bring them back into our world. And also just love them the way that they are. And I wanted children to know this. So it's a story it's for ages 4 to 8. Plenty of illustrations. The illustrations were done by Samantha Wu. It's a story about a little girl named Kira who has a very close relationship with her grandma, but her grandma starts changing. Kira finds the keys in the refrigerator, and her grandma starts knitting little hats that don't fit anyone's head. They're too small. And she goes and talks to her mother, and her mother explains that grandma's brain is forgetting how to remember. Eventually, grandma moves into a memory care home. And when Kira goes to visit, she finds that the ways that they used to play don't work anymore. So she has an idea to bring a doll to grandma. She has a doll, so now grandma can have a doll, and they can play together. So the book is a series. The 2/3 of the book, I would say the last 2/3, is set in the memory care home, which is a setting that's not very common in children's books. And I thought that would be nice for kids to see, make it less frightening. And I have a series of activities that they go through together. The volunteer pianist comes, the piano lady comes, the therapy dogs come. They do a lot of things together and take care of their dolls together. And it's a way that she can connect and sustain her relationship with her grandmother.
Oh boy, do I love that. Oh, I was volunteering at a place we did sing-alongs, and I loved it when someone would say, surely you know this song, because they had categorized me in with having been born much closer to the other end of the century.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go home and where's that computer and get those songs and sing it with them. And those songs spoke to me. There was something in the way that the people were singing it and the requests and the memories that would come up. And I did not realize that one of my people was really being directed by their spouse because they were so, able to express themselves. But maybe 2 hours ago is gone.
Yes.
And I just had no idea. And then when I was at a different place that person was there because their spouse had passed. And they needed to be somewhere that wasn't as independent, because did they eat? That was gone. So they needed to be somewhere else where, and so same family members would come to visit, and, same exchanges. And so thank you. You brought up a memory for me. So even if people are looking in the carousel and they think, well, I don't really know anyone who's going through this journey right now. Do you know someone who's a nurse, who is a professional caregiver? I have precious memories, and I've had sadnesses, and I've driven down the street and turned and looked at a place that I used to go into for a long time, and I know they're gone. And so that is also an act of giving on this Giving Tuesday, is to give someone one of these books, and just to acknowledge you have been dealing with that in your professional capacity. So
or donate it to your child's library, school library.
Yes.
Your child's teacher. Social emotional learning is a big part of the curriculum, and this is a perfect book for that.
Oh, perfect. You can recommend it to your kids' librarian, look into that genre, look into Alzheimer's, or excuse me, I did it wrong this time. AlzAuthors. There's more than one book that's appropriate for children and about children. Obviously, in any classroom, there is a child who is concerned about their grandparent and what's, the forgetfulness, and are they okay, and where we go to visit them. So sorry, I just started chatting away.
Well, we've all got, we're all still young at heart, right? I tell my son I'm still an 18-year-old boy. I've just added more layers. So even though a children's book may be written for children, but I tell you what, us adults can definitely benefit from those. Yeah. So Paulette, thank you so much. How
You're
wonderful.
welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So who is next?
Well, we have two people to hear from. Pam Ostrowski spoke for a second in the first hour, but we're back to give her a little more time here. Plus, Anne would like to just mention a few things before we
Absolutely. We've got time. We've got another 15 minutes ish.
Okay.
So we are good. We're really good. Pam, it is great to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to kind of finish up the other half of It's Not That Simple, helping families navigate the Alzheimer's journey. And, what you were talking about with music, my mom, that was what we did. I work with family members now, and they say, well, what do I do when I visit? And I said, you need to read the book, because visiting should be about creating moments of joy. And the fastest way to create moments of joy is to play music they relate to. Mom's favorite was Que Sera, Sera, which, ironically is what will be. So let go of the control, because caregivers, we always want to control everything that happens with our loved one. Yeah. And I talk about that, the emotional roller coaster in the book, because my favorite words in the book are let it go. And because we try to control this entire journey. And I think very early on in our conversation here today, we talked about the fact that we really don't have any control. We can ask a lot of questions. We can gather a lot of data. But in general, we don't have any control of how the disease progresses, what kind of day they're having that day. All we can do is try to create moments of joy. And so that's really what my book focuses on is, here's the process. Here was our journey. Here are all the tips and the questions. So a very pragmatic side of things, interspersed with Mom and I did this. Is she still in there? Yes, they are still in there. And I think a lot of caregivers miss that. And so I did a lot of reassurance of all those scary thoughts that you're having as a family member. In reality, they're still in there. They're trying their best to communicate as best they can. And we just need to let go of that sense of control, enjoy those moments of joy, whether it's singing or painting or just looking at a magazine together. And so I tried to emphasize that in It's Not That Simple, Helping Families Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. And I feel so honored and blessed to be part of this group. So thank you again.
Great. I'm glad we're doing this because I keep saying the listeners, the viewers, somebody, I can read a book after listening to an author and I can still hear their voice. And I feel like I know why they wrote this. I've gotten to know their personality a little bit. So, and also you've got that reminder, who was the one that wrote this? And sure enough, they are being interviewed somewhere.
Yes.
There's a recording somewhere. They've put out a new book. Now maybe I can be the first one. I'm receiving something in the mail soon. In fact, I saw someone walk up at our front window that should be autographed by the author because I won the book. And again, it's on these same topics. And I'm grateful. I'm just like, I've heard this person. I heard them give their 35-minute presentation. So I already know what I'm getting, and yay, I won. But thank you so much. I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to put this out. My husband does lots of author interviews all over children's books, etc. We saw that at the very beginning, almost 2 hours ago. And, it's wonderful to meet the person and to know that they didn't clinically study this from a comfortable distance and then go, well, I recommend this because obviously that would work out in my world. So it should be good enough, go to publish. Instead, you've lived it, or you've participated with it, or you've watched it unfold, or you've written as you went along. I am speaking about all the AlzAuthors. I'm so grateful this exists, and I'm so glad that today is going to be another day where it will explode out and people will go, did you know there's a whole bunch of them all in one place? We don't have to, just hope and seek, so this is great. I'm grateful to my husband. I will thank him right now on Giving Tuesday and thank him during this Thanksgiving season for saying, let's do 2 hours. I'm like, hey, that's kind of a marathon.
It is. Yeah, that leads right into what Anne would like to talk about as we wrap up.
Yes, thank you. I'll just jump in and say one of the visions that we have for AlzAuthors is to actually have people provide libraries for doctors' offices, for senior homes, for care homes. And in case people have not visited the website, I just wanted to reiterate that we do have memoirs, caregiving guides, novels, books for young people, books for children, books for teens. We have poetry. We have books that have photography. We just have an entire selection of so many different things that will really benefit individuals who have different needs. And I've often gotten the question of, well, why would I read a memoir about Alzheimer's? And we have a lot of memoirs, and they cover so many different topics. But the memoirs, being a memoir writer myself, I'm drawn to that because memoirs can take you through step by step the journey. As somebody who was a caregiver for 14 years, I wanted to know, how did other people survive? How did they not only survive, but thrive? And memoirs can take you by the hand with that journey. And obviously, caregiving guides provide a benefit. Children's books, all of them provide their own benefit. But we would love for people to buy books and offer them as library books for care homes or doctor's offices or whatever. Thank you again for just having us here.
We're grateful. Just an opportunity to share a great number of books, and we do have, like I said, 40 of them in the carousel. That's just a sample. There are plenty of them out there, and at AlzAuthors you can learn a lot more. And thank you for sharing that. It's a great idea. I mentioned that one of the things that's fun about Amazon is that you can just choose a name and an address when you buy something like a book and have it sent directly to someone. So if there's a facility, there's a school, there's some place that would benefit from these, you don't even have to be physically there. You can get it delivered right to them and add to their library. And so this has been a lot of fun, having all of these authors to come in, and it's just a sampling. I think we'll probably have to do this again sometime. We don't need to wait for Giving Tuesday, because I know there's more authors, there's more books, there's more opportunity to share, there's more stories to tell, there's more healing to happen. So thank you for that. So we'll, as we kind of wind down here, Jean, Vicki, Anne, and we'll kind of give you some of the last words here, and just share what's important.
Thank you, Scott and Christine, for coming into our AlzAuthors lives, because you've made such an impact on us today. This has been an amazing journey, just these last 2 hours. And really, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. I'm gonna cry.
I'd like to add the same, that it's been really special, Scott, to be with you and Christine, but equally as special to get to see our authors live and in action. These people that we've sought out and we've gotten posts from, and we've read every word of their books. We feel closer to them now through this experience. So thank you very much. Wow.
Well, this has been great, and I'm just gonna, I'll send you guys out into the green room. We'll, Christine and I will wind this one down, but you can stay there, and then we'll come back and kind of chat for a couple of minutes. But again, thank you to all of you that have been a part of this, and for all the people that have watched. And
Yes.
buy the books. That's the thing. So I'm going to take you guys out of this, and then Kristen and I will wrap this up, but hang out in the green room. Oh, there's lots of buttons to click, but Christine,
Lots
thank
of
you
wonderful
for
people.
co-hosting this with me today. So I have been doing a lot of author interviews, but this is the first one where we've had a room full. Actually, we had a couple of roomfuls.
Yes. You couldn't fit them all in. We want to get in. People were pounding at the door. Let us in. They wanted to talk about their books. Most of these people aren't professional online talkers. They had to get over the nerves. I know what that's like. Just a few months ago, I am realizing that I can purchase something now, sometime in 2022, and I can say, wait a minute, I'm going to check smile.amazon.com and go there intentionally and click AlzAuthors, ALZ, Alzheimer, AlzAuthors, and Amazon will donate to them so that they can continue to take in more authors, read through their books, all that technology talk that my husband can say and I can't. It costs money. I am so grateful that there is some clicking going on right now. I'm trusting that will go their way, and that people in the future will say, that was there. I've got some emotional memory. I was hearing these people say these things. I am not even on this journey at all. But I remember one of them saying, hey, can you collect a few of these books and put the physical paper books, or have Amazon deliver it to a VA home, to a senior community area to a doctor's office so that people will go, AlzAuthors. Oh, there's a whole community. There's over 300, in the future, there'll be a lot more, but they do need the money to be able to put the infrastructure.
Got to get the
under-
website up and do some advertising and promotion. So I'll say, Christine, thank you for co-hosting. And I'm going to share the video here in a moment, and then we'll sign off but we'll share the video about how you can add AlzAuthors to your Amazon Smile so that a portion, so that they can get paid. They can get money. They can get a donation from Amazon. And I'll just say, in a half hour, I'll be back live here on Amazon with Todd Bensman in his book, and then tomorrow Emily Harmon and then Alexia Bartholomew. So we've got more authors coming up and great stories. A lot going on this week on Amazon with the author interview series. But Christine, thank you for joining me and all of the folks from AlzAuthors. And I'll just say goodbye, and I'm going to run this little video so everyone knows where to click. You can support your favorite charities by using the Amazon Smile program. Go to smile.amazon.com. Choose the button here on the upper left to select your favorite charity. Scroll down. Put in the name of the charity, like AlzAuthors, and search. Once you've found the group, you can read about them. So here we have AlzAuthors, and it's a community of authors sharing Alzheimer's and dementia stories. Once you've found the charity, go ahead and click the Select button. And now your purchases will all go toward supporting your favorite charity using the Amazon Smile program.